This week, we're talking about big announcements in the future of our church and the future of the kingdom. Welcome to the 167.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Hey, welcome back to the 167. I'm here with Pastor Rick George.
Hey, good morning. Good to be here.
And I'm Pastor Lucas Motley. And I'll tell you what, it was a doozy of a Sunday. We had 14 baptisms.
We had a great Sunday, and there was a lot of excitement and encouragement and celebrating. Had a good turnout. Number, like the sanctuary was full. Everybody was excited. So we had a great Sunday.
Yeah, we actually had to adjust. Somebody that participates in the baptisms with us, they were like, yeah, don't we usually go in and they're in kind of like the first worship service. I was like, yeah, but we kept boxing off seats for that. Yeah. And then there weren't enough seats for people to sit and watch the baptisms because then those people go sit with their families.
So it has been encouraging the first several weeks here of 2026. The attendance trend, again, everything isn't focused on attendance, but we do count because numbers matter and people matter.
Serious matter.
Empty seats are serious matters, and so the trend is an upward trend, and we're trending where our average attendance now is over 1,300 for a Sunday, which is pretty incredible. It's a little bit
crazy.
Yeah, a little mind-boggling in some ways, but very, very encouraging, and got a lot of momentum. So
that's great. So you gave us some big news this week, but also we just wanted to take time to confirm, because it seems to have been this kind of rolling thing over 2025.
Yep.
That I was trying to think when we did Galatians. Galatians was like right off the bat. It was like February, March.
Yeah, I can't remember when it was. It was somewhere, I don't know, after the first of the year. But yeah, we did that series. We thought, hey, let's just do it a little more casual, a little more, since it's a book of the Bible, more instructional. So it could be like a teaching time, and just sit down in a chair with a table.
Change the vibe.
Yeah, and from that, people then got the assumption that something was wrong with me because I preached the first message, and that I was sitting down, which was unusual, and asked if I was sick or if I was hurt or if I was okay. And
I just told him you didn't skip leg day.
Yeah, so I was like, no, we're just trying to be creative. We didn't know we were creating this turmoil of concern over my health. And so
we wanted to confirm it here on the podcast.
Yeah, so you can hear it, all the podcast listeners, all the insiders. Yes, I'm dying. It's probably a long, as far as I know at this point, it's going to be a long, drawn-out death. It'll take several years to get there.
I've been dying since the day I was born.
But no, there's no indication that I'm dying anytime soon. So I am not sick. There's no health scare that's prompting some, immediate actions and decisions. It's just thoughtful, long-term strategic planning.
Yeah, we were talking about the future of the church. We were talking about legacy. And we're talking about because we're talking about the context of wise planning, wise future planning, looking out ahead, and doing that in the context of Nehemiah and Ezra, but also in the life of our church, of what is the long-term thing? Because just like Ezra and Nehemiah, they didn't want to rebuild the temple and rebuild the walls, and then 2 years later have it break down again.
Yeah. So we want to make sure that again, when you look at Ezra and Nehemiah, kind of one story divided in two, Ezra being the spiritual side, bringing the gospel, Nehemiah being the labor side. We want to make sure that we have both the word and the truth. We want to make sure that we have passionate worship, but to have the stability of leadership and buildings and vision, to make sure that continues on, not just for the next couple of weeks or months or years, but for the long haul.
Well, I think that was a great example of that this Sunday, because we got to come in, we got to praise the Lord, we got to see each service about 6 to 8 people, give their life to the Lord, dedicate, say, He's my King, He's my Lord. And then so we got to kind of have that Ezra moment
Yep.
And then we kind of had the Nehemiah moment where it's like, hey, we want to plan long term.
Yeah.
And kind of share the vision on that. So when it comes to the Bible, what are some of the areas that you see that the Bible encourages us to plan long term? Like, obviously, if God says, go to Africa tomorrow, like, we should go. But what are some of the areas that we should be planning that the Bible is encouraging us to plan far out?
Yeah. So if you look at we'll just go first of all to Proverbs, the book of Proverbs. So there are a number of proverbs that talk about planning, or look at the ant. Like, look how they prepare now for something later. So there's a lot of illustrations or proverbs, but one of them in relation to where we are that I think is in context very appropriate. The proverb says, the mind of man plans his ways, but the Lord directs his steps. That proverb is a great illustration of how we as men, as humans, interact with the guidance and the under the influence of the Holy Spirit and the presence of God. And so, yes, we pray, we seek his wisdom, and then we make plans to the best of our ability. We look out and say, this is what we think will happen. This is what we hope happens. And so this is what we're going to plan and put things in motion to try to ensure that those things happen.
Yeah.
And yet, a year from now, the Lord could direct our steps a little bit differently. So what we tried to do is to communicate a broad, big picture that this is likely what is going to happen. We didn't give minute details, because if you detail it out in the beginning with every fine point, you really don't leave a lot of room for the Holy Spirit to then guide and direct along the way, if that makes sense. So
Sure. Let me put it in like a everyday context. I was thinking about this is sometimes I think, I don't know about you guys, when I was growing up, we didn't take vacations, we took trips, right?
Yep.
Like, my mom would plan it. Today we're doing this, and we're actually going to go here from 8 to noon, and then at noon we're going to switch over and go from
Right.
noon. Like, and it was like we did not rest on that trip, and I actually really like it. It's kind of funny, if you go snowboarding or skiing, what they'll actually do is sell you a 3-day pass that's good over 5 days, and so you can actually go to the mountain for 4 days, 5 days, and then one day wake up and go, you know what? Everybody's really sore and tired. And so we're just going to take the day off and use our pass tomorrow. And so there's that flexibility of saying, it's not that we have every minute planned and we have to, it's like, hey, we're going to plan that if people aren't feeling good, we can just hang out by the pool. Like,
Right.
It's okay to take a rest, take a breather,
yeah.
and kind of flex on the day to day, still knowing that this is where we're going. This is our trip.
Yeah, so we do have a fair amount of confidence or understanding of this is where we're going, yet we also understand that we're not the end-all be-all, that we're not the smartest, brightest, that nobody knows more than we know, that we're smarter than God, and that, so, to have that, okay, this is the general picture, and this is what we hope to get to, and we're going to do everything we can to get to that place, and then we'll let God, do all the maneuvering around all the things that come up in the next 6 years.
Well, and I see this dichotomy even in Jesus' teaching, right? Where on the one hand, he's teaching, hey, look at the sparrows. Like, they're not sowing, they're not reaping. And he's talking about that from a confidence level, I feel like, more than anything, where he's saying, like, they don't have anxiety about this. God's their provider. It's okay. Look at the flowers of the field. Like, it's like, relax. It's okay.
Yeah.
But then you have, him also teaching that, hey, nobody starts to build a building and doesn't measure and count the cost, because you're going to get halfway through and you're going to look really foolish.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we're doing here now is we're looking out and saying, okay, what is the cost of getting from here to there? What will it take to get there? And what it will take are people and leadership and workers in the vineyard, people that go out into the harvest. It will require that we reach the lost and rescue those that are perishing and all those things. And so
Rescue the perishing and care for the dying.
yeah.
That's what
And so we're looking out and saying, okay, there is a cost to all of that. Okay, so are we willing to pay that price? And yes, we are. And then here's how we're going to make it happen. So financially, people do that, with their homes all the time. Like, okay, we want to buy a home. We know what that home cost. We don't have what it takes right now to get it. And so we're going to make a plan to save money. And you might come up with something a year from now and think, ooh, here's an opportunity to make a little extra money. We didn't think about that then, but now we know. And so you kind of adjust and navigate around things, and ultimately you get to your desired destination.
Yeah, and Paul talks to us in the New Testament, and you were just sharing with me earlier a story from the podcast, but it made me think of this in the New Testament where, Paul's like, yeah, Jesus is coming back, and people are like, oh, great, and quit their jobs, and
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, no, and he says, you don't work, you don't eat, and so there is this, and even in what is that, Thessalonians, is it first, second Thessalonians, I can't remember, where it says, when Christ comes back, men are going to be planning and saying, hey, I'm going to go to this city, and I'm going to go,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of this like, hey, we're going to plan on being around, and yet the Bible tells us to kind of hold that loosely, but yet it encourages us. Like I said, I think about that in one of those instances is finance. It's like, hey, Paul's saying, you don't work, you don't eat. You should come at that with the confidence that the Lord is your provider, but you should plan ahead financially so that, like you can leave a legacy. You're not a burden to other people. And if you are somebody who cannot, kind of support yourself, you're probably not going to be able to fulfill the mission that Jesus gave us, which was to feed the poor.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feed the poor if it's not out of something that you have to give
Yeah,
them.
there's an abundance. Yeah, in Ecclesiastes, the writer of Solomon, he's like, some say eat, drink, and be merry because you're going to die tomorrow. So just live it up and let it go. And it's like, there's some folly in that. Yes, you should eat and you should be merry and you should enjoy life and you should do all those things. But you also have to understand that there's a longevity piece to it. So I mentioned earlier, and part of the planning process is that I'm getting older, as is everyone else. But when you think about retirement age and Social Security and 401ks, and you reach a point in life where your earning potential starts to diminish, and when you retire, then that term, I'm on a fixed income. It's like everyone's on a fixed income,
Right.
I don't
know
Elon
anyone's-
Musk.
yeah.
Is this kind of unlimited, but we're all on a fixed income. But you get to that point, you realize, like, I can't just go out and get a second job or another job or a job period. Like, I am dependent upon what I have put back either through Social Security or through my retirement. And so if you meet with a financial planner, they're looking out into the future and they're saying,
Right.
okay, how do you want to live from age 65 until you die? Like, what is your lifestyle like? What do you want to do? So you have to think about, well, do we want to travel? Do we want to, be charitable? Do we want, what are we going to do? And then they will tell you, because they've looked out, they see the facts, and they say, okay, here's what that means for you. You're going to have $5,000 a month or $6,000 or $10,000 or whatever that number is, but you're going to have to die when you're 78. You're going to run out of money. Or you can live on less money now, and you'll be able to make it till you're 85. Or so Trudy got an email from a friend of ours. I don't know if they listen to the podcast or not, but shout out to Linda Kanabi.
Yeah.
If you listen, or watch the podcast, but she sent Trudy a picture of her cousin who is 108 years old.
Oof.
And her primary caregiver is her 85-year-old son. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're
caring for this, bro?
85 and you should be being cared for. But I was thinking, does anyone really plan financially to live till they're 108?
No.
At what point does your money just run out and you're like, I'm tapped, man?
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd make it this far.
It's when you hear those news reports that are like, this is Social Security fraud. This person's living to 108 years old. I'll be like, no, I know that person.
Really, here they are. And so in that regard, I mean, those are just practical things that you think about as you get older and you think, why am I putting all this money into a 401k plan? I don't understand it. Well, as you get older, then you realize, okay, if I retire now, it means that I have enough money put back. I've thought it through to sustain me for a certain number of years. Okay, in that same regard, as a church, we've looked out and we said, okay, what does the future look like? And have we invested and have we prepared for the next 20 years, 40 years, 70 years, whatever that is? So that's the correlation.
Well, yeah, and I think especially my generation and below, I think that we have a hard time wrapping our brains around stuff like that, because I remember growing up, and even when I went to Bible college, right, a lot of the Bible colleges were sustained by endowments. And so it was some, and I remember I was in the president's office, President Ray, shout out President Ray, because I don't know, the president of my college at the time, and he was talking to some lady and he told me about it. And I said, what's going on? And he said, well, there's this, essentially this little old lady, doesn't have really any kids or anything, but inherited her family farm, that kind of thing. And so she had just listed it as an endowment for the school. And so when she would die, they were going to sell her property, and then that money was going to go essentially into an account that wasn't necessarily going to be given to the school, but the interest on the account every year was going to go for scholarships and things like that. And I'm just like, I was sitting there like, what an incredible forethought to sit down, because Chris and I have done that. We've sat down with financial planners, but also somebody to do our estate. We converted over to an estate and will. And so, be able to go, oh, I want to provide for my kiddos. And I'm going, but do I want to provide for the kingdom? Like there wasn't something at the time that we did it. We were just like, oh yeah, divide our stuff by 4 and give it to all the girls equally. And I'm sitting there going, well, wait a minute, should I have said, hey, listen, not only do I want to provide for my family, but I want to provide for the Lord's family. Right. And I think that doesn't really occur to us anymore. Like that, for some reason, that doesn't seem like a thing for millennials and Gen Z, is to think through something like, I don't think about giving an endowment because I'm not a bazillionaire.
Right.
And so, but I'm going, no, like that could be something that, yeah, I put this money into an account, and like the interest could go to some kid to go to Bible college. It could go to a church. It could go to anything in the kingdom. And that's super long-term planning. And I think that, like you said, I think finances, I think ministry is a big thing. I know a lot of people serve here at New Life, and it's, they're kind of like, this is my service, this is what I'm doing. But one of the things that we've been trying to be really intentional with at our church is through Next, our young adult ministry, and telling those young adults, hey, you have to serve. And it's really funny right now because there's a few of them that they took that to heart, and now they're heavily involved on Sunday morning. They're like leading some of our teams. And it's like, yeah, like this is what we're doing. We're investing heavily in youth. You're highlighting this on Sunday about investing in youth and children. And that's something that we can all do.
Yeah. And something that's just important in that strategic planning for the future of a church is to make sure that not just that you have a lot of young people in your church. That is important, because, churches that don't have young people coming up behind are the churches who dwindle, who dry up, and then it winds up being, 8 or 9, 10 families that are all elderly, and they don't have the energy.
Singing the old songs.
Yeah, and there's and eventually, they begin to die off and the church fades away. That is not what I want. That's not what I believe the vision for New Life is. It's to be a generational church. So it is important that those young people are flooding in through the doors, but not just flooding in through the doors, but that we're equipping them and training them and then encouraging them to take positions of secondary leadership under current leaders, people who are older, people who have been serving for a while, serve along with them so that you get, equipped and you know the ropes. And then there's a transition that happens, and the older people then begin to do other things, and young people take over leadership of those ministries. That's what sustains a church long term. Right? And so
It's not that Paul is traveling from city to city to city and being Paul. It's Priscilla and Aquila. It's Apollos.
Yes.
It's all these people that he leaves behind that are running the Tabitha. It's like all these people that are running those things.
Yeah,
that-
so he's telling Timothy there in that passage, hey, I've been investing in you. Now you take what I invested in you, and you personally invest it in some other people. Then those people are going to invest it in other people. And it's from one person, now it's 2 people, now it's 6 people, and then those 6 people impact 20 people, those 20 people, hundreds and thousands of people. But it's that investing in the next people behind you, the younger generation coming up. And so,
Well, we were going to talk about this a little bit later, but since we're kind of on it, let's just talk about that, because I think that people, we talk about the future of the church, and it seems like something that's very high level. It's like, oh, this is what the elders are going to do. This is going to happen. But how can people get involved in that on the ground level, like you're saying, like with? I think about this in terms of the congregation of a lot of people come to church, and they're seeking to be fed, right? They're saying, oh, and some of it's self-awareness. They're like, man, I know who I am. My life's kind of a mess, and for everybody else, we're like, comparatively, you're pretty good, but you kind of know your own limitations, and what they think is, well, I'm here to be mentored, and I'm here to be fed, and I'm here to be shown into the presence of God. How do I then invest in somebody else? Am I ready for that? Am I not ready for that? What would you say to somebody who's thinking about that? Like, how would they kind of change that mindset of, I'm not just here to be fed, but I have something to offer somebody else?
yeah. So, and I'm going to talk about some of these specific things this coming Sunday with some of the little,
Oh, spoiler alert.
some of the little quotes or sayings that I've had over the years that I didn't come up with them. I've just repeated them because they're good.
It's like I always say.
Like I always said. But things like, that New Life is not, or the church in general, but New Life is not a country club for the comfortable, right? Or for the saints. It's a hospital for the dying, for the sinner. So I won't give you all of them, but using that one as an example. So to go to your question, when you come here to church, this is not the country club that you show up to be entertained, to get a little encouragement, have a great time for a few hours, and then go home. It's a place where you come, and those things do happen, but you recognize that I need to invest here. I need to use my abilities, my hands, my mind, my heart. I need to serve here. I need to find a place where I can get involved. And then you seek that out as a church goer. And then you become a church member, where this is something where I belong. And then you become, from a church goer, a church member, then you become a church worker. Like, now I'm working here, not being paid for it, but I'm doing the work. I'm praying with people. I'm leading in some area. I'm assisting people, helping people. And so if you just view it as a place where I come in on Sunday, I hear a few songs that I really like and hear the sermon, and I get encouraged and I go home, then you're just a consumer. And the church was never intended to be a place for consumers to gather to get. It's a place where, yes, you get fed, there is a benefit of being here, but there's also that expectation for you to invest back financially, to invest back physically, to invest back in spiritually, to make sure that this is a healthy place, to make sure that this is a productive place, and that it's a place that that endures for a long, long time.
Yeah. And I think too about some of the times where I sit with people and they're telling me the reason they can't serve, right? They're telling me the reason they don't have anything to offer people. And sometimes it's funny because I think that sometimes that becomes the actual thing that they're here to do. Because I'll just brag on them a little bit. We have a group of women here. Usually they're older ladies, and some of them are widows, some of them are still married. But we do have a great deal of women that are kind of their husbands have passed, and they're healthy, spry, like ladies that are here at the church. And that's I remember that happening in a big wave all of a sudden, and they were like, "What? We're not married with children. Like the church is not for us," and and it's just kind of this like it's othered them,
Yeah.
in a sense, and it's like they're in their grief. But this is the group of ladies that every year at the marriage conference make it function.
Yeah.
And so we put on this marriage conference every year in February, and we always have this group of women who a lot of them are in that stage of life where their husbands have passed. And what they do is they come and they serve, they clean, they serve tables, they're helping us in the kitchen, and they're doing all those things. And they've got community through that with each other.
Right.
They feel, useful, and they feel like they're part of something. And now they are, since, their marriages are over, like they're in an era or a season where that's past, and yet they are investing in new marriages and helping us do that. I'm just going, this is beautiful. But for them at first it was like, well, we don't have anything to offer. And it's like, no. Precisely that, because, you're in that stage. You're not attending the marriage conference. You're not doing this. And so because of that, you can come, you have this flexibility and freedom to come and make this possible.
Yeah. It's just important. We taking that and wrapping it into the entirety of the ministry within a church, specifically here at New Life, to keep in mind the complexity or the multifaceted aspects of it's not just the church isn't just one thing. And so the Apostle Paul encouraged. He said, one man plants a seed, another man waters, somebody else comes along and harvests. Well, when they harvest, then somebody else eats. They get nourished. They're able to do whatever they do so that they can provide the seed that gets planted, and it's a cycle. And so there was a time in those ladies' lives when somebody planted something for them that they were able to then be a part of, and then they were, married, had lives, had children, had whatever, and then now they're in that season of life where, well, what do I do now? Like, well, you plant again. Like you sow back in so that the ground remains fertile.
Circle of
That's right.
life.
It's but sometimes, and I get it. Like I've gone through seasons. I think everybody, when you transition from one season of life to the next, you think, well, what do I have to offer now? I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm not cool and trendy like the 20. I can't do what they do, and I can't, and then you hit 40 or 50 and you think, I don't have the energy to do what. Then you hit 70 and you think, oh no, 50, you have a lot of energy,
Right.
and you think, well, what do I have now? Every season you have something to offer. You have something that you can receive. You have something that you can give. And so the church, it has to include, if it's going to be healthy, it has to include sinners who are seeking Christ. It has to contain spiritually mature believers who have been in it for the long game, and they're investing back in the young believers. It requires young people, middle-aged people, older people. It requires people that have an abundance of finances, and it requires people who, hey, I don't have a lot of finances, but man, I've got a lot of energy. And everyone working together then ensures that, yes, we do what needs to be done today, but man, we're going to do this for a really long time.
Yeah. And like, I just think about that. As soon as you're hearing this and thinking, yeah, but that thing is probably, it's like, well, I haven't been a Christian for very long. Cool. Come work in our parking lot ministry. Help park cars. Like, that doesn't take a Bible degree.
No, and it's, but it's a way to serve. And without everyone serving, something doesn't get done, and it impacts the whole thing.
So I want to touch on this briefly, and then we'll wrap up. But you mentioned a couple things which I thought was really excellent about some of the things that Nehemiah was doing in order to spur that along. You said like he got up, he evaluated, he surveyed the wall. Like, what are some of the things that we should be doing in our own lives and ministries in order to help propel us towards the future? Like if I'm sitting here listening to this going, I want to plan legacy, what should I be doing right now?
So yeah, it said he walked the walls, like it was an evaluation. Everyone needs to evaluate your own life, your own skill set, your own giftings, your own passion, your own health, your own finances, your everything. You just,
Right.
So you go out and you evaluate yourself first, and then you evaluate where you are, where you're planted, what your passions are. For Nehemiah, it was to rebuild the walls. So he went out and he walked the walls. He just made some assessments. This part of it, it's really bad. I need extra help here. This one, we got to do some work, but it's okay. It's got a good foundation, and it's just making assessments. And so individually, okay, so when I look at my own skill set, what can I do right now? And then you get involved. What do I want to do in the future? Well, financially, you have to make a plan. And like you said earlier, well, I need to put money aside or I need to invest for that purpose. As a church, okay, that's individually. As a church, we're doing the same thing. And so what I've done for 25 years is I've assessed our community. I've looked at our community. And from the beginning, 25 years ago, there was a trend that continues on today. And the trend is that the community of Gardner has a lot of kids. Mm-hmm. Like it's young families. So our primary focus of ministry is on young families, providing excellent and quality children's and youth ministries. We invest money and resources to make sure that those are done well. So when a young family who makes up the vast majority of our community, when a young family decides we want to check out a church and they come to New Life, that they know we care about their family and their kids. And so they're going to be cared for and protected and poured into. That brings a comfort level to parents that then would cause them to come back. We also understand that young families have certain struggles, and so we try to address those in sermons and sermon series and music style and those kinds of things. So do we care about older? Yes, we do. But when we look at the whole and we think, where are we going? Who do we need to reach to make sure that we are able to endure for the long haul? Well, that is what kind of helps us make decisions on sermon content and music style and ministry opportunities.
Yeah, I hate to use the term ROI, but it's kind of like you and I have sat with couples, and a lot of couples that come in, they're like, oh, we're having problems in our marriage. And then you start to talk to them and you're like, oh, you have been taught from a very young age that this is the norm. And it's like, that's not the norm. And so we're kind of evaluating that and going, oh, if we can get young people, if you can teach an entire generation that that's not normal and that this is normal, then maybe they walk in it, maybe they don't. But later on, if they're coming back to the Lord, like at least they know that this is not the way it's supposed to be. Where like I always joke with kind of couples, they come in and I said, Chris and I used to think it was funny, and we're like, what if we taught one of our kids it was little twinkle twinkle little car, and they just grow up and they think that something is true when it's not, and then but it'll cause friction. And so a lot of people, that's why they're having friction in their marriages, is because they've either watched a dysfunctional home life or something. They somewhere along the line, movies, media, they have learned that this is normal and it's not. And so the more that we invest in young people and, children, teens, and you can kind of set the groundwork for truth and foundation, the easier that's going to be on the flip side of that when you get into the older ministries. And not that we don't, like I said, we have freedom and we have all kinds of things to try and help kind of people in crisis. But if you can invest down here, I remember hearing a podcast, and they were talking about introducing coffee to Japan. Have you ever heard that? It was like somebody like Nescafe or something like that. They wanted to get into the Japanese market, and they said, "Oh, that's impossible." And they're like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because it's tea. Like, you can't sell coffee in Japan. Like, nobody wants it. Like, you'll just go bankrupt." And they said, "Okay, well, what do we do?" And this firm was with them, and they said, "Well, what you have to do is you're going to start a line of candy that is coffee flavored." And he's like, and then what you're going to do is you're going to sell it cheap in Japan. And so all these kids are going to start liking this candy that tastes like coffee. And he goes, and then you're going to, they're like, you're going to pay cartoon people to put it in, cartoon. And so it was basically, you have to indoctrinate. You're not going to sell coffee to the 30-year-olds. You're going to sell candy to the 15-year-olds and the 8-year-olds.
And then
and in 10 years, you're going to bring coffee to Japan. They said now like Starbucks is everywhere in Japan, and people in Japan drink coffee, but they had to start with, that younger generation.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, on the darker side of that, that's exactly a strategy of our enemy.
Oh yeah.
Who gets into our young people and who indoctrinates young people in schools and in TV shows. And so we have to be aware of that. And so when I talk about investing financially to make sure that we have inroads into our children and young people, our middle school, high school, young adults, so that we're equipping them, like we have to have resources that enable us to do for God what the enemy is wanting to do for evil, and it's not cheap.
Yeah.
And so
because the other side, they've got piles of cash to throw at kids.
Yep. And so we're fighting this battle that requires some resources. And so it's that long game, and it's an investment. And again, I'll talk about it this coming Sunday about that legacy, the long things that you may never see. You're investing in something that the return is not going to be an immediate payback, but you're in faith, you're planting things that somebody else will come along at some point and harvest. That's what we have to get our minds wrapped around. And so, for us as a church, we're thinking in that vein now. We're thinking long term. We're not the new church anymore. Yes, we're still a relatively new church in regards to church history. There are churches that have been around, even in Gardner, the churches that were established in the late 1800s, that
or
are
the
still,
late 1900s.
Yeah. So we are a relatively young church in that regard, but we're becoming that church of second, third generations. We currently have families where mom and dad have children, and the mom and dad grew up here at New Life with their parents, and now they're back with their kids, and it won't be long until their kids are having kids. And so that multi-generational worshiping together, that's an amazing thing, right? It's beautiful,
but it's scary. Like I told Chris, I'm like, we are within striking distance of being grandparents.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy, because I have an 8-year-old.
Yep. And so, so what that means for us, again, kind of bringing this back full circle, is I'm not getting younger, and I still have vision, I still have drive, but I understand that I'm not 40 like I was when we started.
Right.
Like things have changed.
Seems young now, doesn't it?
I know. It's like those 40-year-old kids, and so what does it look like when I'm not doing what I currently do? And if
we've been kind of alluding to this, if you were not here on Sunday, the announcement is that we're putting together a 6-year succession plan.
So we're making plans, and I will retire at some point. In retire, I use that word loosely. I don't know what that future looks like, but over the next 6 years, There will be a plan for me to phase out of being the senior leader, the visionary, the senior pastor, and to transition out of that role, and then you would transition into that role, and kind of the big picture of kind of what we're doing to make sure that happens successfully or effectively. And so things change over time. We're not the same church that we were 5 years ago or 25 years ago. Roughly the same. People,
Same mission.
yeah. When people leave and come back, they notice, wow, this feels like home. It's the same place, yet things are different. That will continue to be the case. It'll be the same, yet a little different. And so we just want to make sure that, in 2045,
I was like trying to make the calculation of that.
in 2045, 20 years from now, people that were a part of the church and moved away and they came back and they're like, this is awesome. This is just it feels so good. It feels like home. And yet, what would that look like? I don't know.
In 2045, I'm going to be announcing my succession plan.
So when you think, okay, what does the next 6 years look like? Well, in 6 years, if we continue on the growth trajectory, and we continue to grow, well, things will change. We're more than likely, the first thing that will happen is a third service. Again, we'll have to go back to having multiple services on a weekend just to accommodate the people. Okay, that's a good thing. Then where does it go from there? I don't know. That's what we have to figure out. Do we look at starting a second campus? Do we look at planting a church somewhere? Do we look there are multiple options. But we're not done. It's not like, oh, we've got a building, we got a lot of people, we just kick back and relax and coast. No, there's still more to do. Those fine details, well, we're going to figure those out over time. I don't know. Do we build a bigger building? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
But at some point, do you just keep building and building and building, or do you plant and multiply? I don't know. Those are things we figure out.
Yeah. It's an exciting time, though. And I think I love that this week it was by baptisms, because that's the reason that we're doing it is, we're not building bigger buildings, just for the heck of it, or just so we can brag about it. We're building bigger buildings because God is doing something. He's changing people's lives, and then those people are taking up seats and parking spaces and whatever, and staying and helping and doing those things. And so we have to make room for God to move again.
Yeah. So that's our heart, is long-term, that church doesn't die when we die.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us in the 167. We'll be back next week with the last week of this series, and hope you join us then.
See ya.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 167, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, get notified, leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Tell all your friends to listen as well. Make sure you go over to newlifegardener.com and check out all that we have to offer as a church, and check out our messages online as well. Thanks for listening.